Hey everybody, Tony G. President Trump has delivered some remarks, and I think it's important we hear them. I think it's going to be an update on the things that are going on. I haven't seen it yet, so this will be my genuine reaction. Let's delve in.
Good evening. I'd like to provide the American people with an update on our efforts to protect the integrity of our very important 2020 election.
Oh my God.
If you count the legal votes, I easily win. If you count the illegal votes, they can try to steal the election from us. If you count the votes that came in late, we're looking at them very strongly, but a lot of votes came in late. I've already decisively won many critical states, including massive victories in Florida, Iowa, Indiana, Ohio. To name just a few, we won these and many other victories despite historic election interference from big media, big money, and big tech. As everybody saw, we won by historic numbers. And the pollsters got it knowingly wrong. They got it knowingly wrong. We had polls that were so ridiculous, and everybody knew it at the time. There was no blue wave that they predicted. They thought there was going to be a big blue wave. That was false. It was done for suppression reasons. But instead, there was a big red wave. And it's been properly acknowledged, actually, by the media. They were, I think, very impressed. But that was after the fact. That doesn't do us any good.
Don't gloat too much,
We kept
Trump.
the Senate,
Don't gloat.
despite having twice as many seats to defend as Democrats. And in a really much more competitive states, we did a fantastic job with the Senate. I think we're very proud of what's happened there. We had many more seats to defend. They spent almost $200 million on Senate races in South Carolina
Get
and
to the
Kentucky alone,
lawsuits.
2 races, and hundreds of millions of dollars overall against us. At the national level, our opponents' major donors were Wall Street bankers and special interests. Our major donors were police officers, farmers, everyday citizens. Yet for the first time ever, we lost 0 races in the House. I was talking to Kevin McCarthy today. He said he couldn't believe it. 0 races. Very unusual thing, 0. And actually won many new seats with, I think, many more on the way. This was also the year of the Republican woman. More Republican women were elected to Congress than ever before. That's a great achievement. I won the largest share of non-white voters of any Republican in 60 years, including historic numbers of Latino,
If they take the House,
African American, Asian American,
I will,
and Native American voters.
Trump wins,
The largest
and they take
ever
the House and Senate,
in our history.
I will count my
We grew
prediction
our
as being
party by
correct.
4 million voters,
I
the
think you'd have
greatest
to give it to
turnout
me then.
in Republican Party history. Democrats are the party of the big donors, the big media, the big tech.
By the way, this is
It
the White
seems,
House
and
feed.
Republicans have become the
check this
party
out
of the
yourself.
American
Not
worker,
hear
and
me
that's
talk
what's
over it.
happened. And we're also, I believe, the party of inclusion. As everyone now recognizes, media polling was election interference in the truest sense of that word by powerful special interests. These really phony polls, I have to call them phony polls, fake polls, were designed to keep our voters at home, create the illusion of momentum for Mr. Biden, and diminish Republicans' ability to raise funds. They were what's called suppression polls, everyone knows.
And they worked to a small extent, not a large extent, because I think Trump was very good at, framing the media for what they are. They were, he said the enemy of the people, but really, well, I mean, that's kind of accurate. And he's talking about the corporate media. He's not talking about all media. He's talking about the people who are just shills for the Democratic Party. I mean, they are not playing fair. They are pretending to be honest and truthful, and really they're just partisan shills. But I did talk to some Republicans who were, they're like, I don't think Trump's going to win, man. Fortunately, they voted already. It didn't keep them away from the ballots, but still.
Knows that now. And it's never been used to the extent that it's been used on this last election. To highlight just a few examples, the day before election Quinnipiac, which was wrong on every occasion that I know of. And Joe Biden up by 5 points in Florida, and they were off by 8.4 points, and I won Florida easily.
So F you,
So,
Quinnipiac.
They had me losing Florida
This is
by
the
a lot,
FU
and I
tour.
ended up winning
The
Florida by
FU
a
press
lot.
conference.
Other than that, they
It's a
were
little
very
early,
accurate.
Trump. Win it.
They had him up 4 points in Ohio, and they
But
were
this
up
is
by
Trump's-
12.2 points.
This is Trump's
And they also
demoralization
won Ohio,
of the
great
opposition,
state of
I would say.
Ohio, very easily. The Washington Post said Biden up 17 points in Wisconsin, and it was basically even.
But
They
you
were up
won't
by
see
about
this in the
17
regular news.
points.
Unless he makes a
And they
mistake
knew
in
that.
some of these
They're
numbers. You're not going to
stupid
see
people.
any of it.
They knew that. Suppression. There are now only a few states yet to be decided in the presidential race. The voting apparatus of those states are run in all cases by Democrats. We were winning in all the key locations by a lot, actually. And then our numbers started miraculously getting whittled away in secret. And they wouldn't allow legally permissible observers. We went to court in a couple of instances, and we were able to get the observers put in. And when the observers got there, they wanted them 60, 70 feet away, 80 feet, 100 feet away, or outside the building to observe people inside the building.
I think that's
And
what's
we won
really
a
going
case,
to
a
get
big
this
case, and
entire
we have
election
others
thrown
happening.
out.
There are lots of litigation, even beyond our litigation. There's tremendous.
I think
amount of
that's going to
litigation
really
generally
push
because of how unfair this
the
process
Supreme
was.
Court
And I
to just
predicted
say,
that. I've been talking about
how,
mail-in voting
how
for
are we going to
a long
judge this?
time. It's
You know, unless we go
really
back and re-examine
destroyed
every
our
vote.
system. It's a corrupt system, and it makes people corrupt even if they aren't by nature. But they become corrupt. It's too easy. They want to find out how many votes they need, and then they seem to be able to find them. They wait, and then they find them. And you see that on election night. We were ahead in vote in North Carolina by a lot, tremendous number of votes. And we're still ahead by a lot, but not as many, because they're finding ballots all of a sudden. Oh, we have some mail-in ballots. It's amazing how those mail-in ballots are so one-sided, too. I know that it's supposed to be to the advantage of the Democrats, but in all cases, they're so one-sided.
Yeah,
We
this
were
is
up by
part of
nearly
the problem, too.
700,000 votes in Pennsylvania. I won Pennsylvania by a lot, and that
I mean,
gets
if
whittled
you're
down
going
to.
to cheat
I think they said
realistically,
now we're
Democrats.
up by 90,000 votes, and they'll keep coming and coming and coming. They find them all over.
You don't just
And they
drive
don't want us to have
truckloads
any
of nothing but
observers.
Biden votes and say,
Although
"Oh,
we
here's
won a
another
court case.
batch from
They
some
said you have to
unnamed
have
county."
observers. Likewise in Georgia, and they're
All for
appealing.
Biden.
Actually, they're appealing. We won a case that we want people to watch, and we want observers, and they're actually appealing, which is sort of interesting. I wonder why they'd appeal. That all we want to do is have people watch as they do the vote tabulations. Likewise in
My,
Georgia, I won by a lot.
Brother
a
just
lot,
sent me a meme
with a lead of over getting
the
close to
postal worker,
300,000 votes.
and it says just
on
dropping
election
off the
night
ballots, and
in Georgia.
they
And by the way,
photoshopped
got
Hillary
whittled
Clinton's
down,
face as the
and now it's
driver.
getting to be to a point where I'll go from winning by a lot to perhaps being even down a little bit. In Georgia, a pipe burst in a faraway location, totally unrelated to the location of what was happening, and they stopped counting for 4 hours.
Huh? That's
And
weird.
a lot of things happened. The election apparatus in Georgia is run by Democrats. We also had margins of 300,000 in Michigan. We're way up in Michigan, won the state. And in Wisconsin, we did likewise fantastically well.
He
And,
won
That
Michigan?
got whittled down.
Did they give it to him?
In every case, they got whittled down.
No.
Today, we're on track to win Arizona. We only need to carry, I guess, 55% of the remaining vote, 55% margins, and that's a margin that we've significantly exceeded, so we'll see what happens with that, but we're on track to do okay in
See.
Arizona.
Got an update here.
Our goal is to defend the integrity of the election. We'll not allow the corruption to steal such an important election, or any election for that matter. And
Difference
can't
of
allow
about
silence, anybody to
Less than
silence our
40,000
voters
with 90%
and
reporting.
manufacture results. I've been doing a lot of public things for a long time. I've never had anything that's been as inspirational by people calling, talking, sending things to us. I've never seen such love and such affection and such spirit as I've seen for this. People know what's happening and they see what's happening and it's before their eyes. And there are many instances which will be reported very shortly. There's tremendous litigation going on, and this is a case where they're trying to steal an election. They're trying to rig an election, and we can't let that happen. Detroit and Philadelphia, known as two of the most corrupt political places anywhere in our country, easily cannot be responsible for engineering the outcome of a presidential race, a very important presidential race. In Pennsylvania, Democrats have gone to the state Supreme Court to try and ban our election observers, and very strongly.
Why would you ban the
Now, we
observers?
won the case, but
Unless you wanted to
they're
cheat.
going forward. They don't want anybody in there. They don't want anybody watching them as
There's no
they
other reason.
count the ballots.
The observers don't
I can't
obstruct
imagine
anything.
why.
They're
There's
just watching.
absolutely no legitimate reason why they would not want to have people.
See, this is why I say Trump doesn't
watching
need to
this
cheat.
process,
He knew
because
this
if
was
it's
going
straight,
on.
They should
And
be
he knew
proud
he
of
was
it.
gonna win.
Instead, they're trying obviously to commit fraud. There's no question about that. In Philadelphia, observers have been kept far away, very far away, so far that people are using binoculars to try and see, and there's been tremendous problems caused. They put paper on all of the windows so you can't see in, and the people that are banned are very unhappy and become somewhat violent. The 11th Circuit ruled that in Georgia the votes have been in by Election Day, that they should be in by Election Day, and they weren't. Votes are coming in after Election Day. And they had a ruling already that you have to have the votes in by Election Day. To the best of my knowledge, votes should be in by Election Day. And they didn't do that. Democrat officials never believed they could win this election, honestly. I really believe that. That's
Yeah,
why they
I would
did the
say.
mail-in
I'd say
ballots,
that's
where
fair.
there's tremendous corruption and fraud going on. That's why they mailed out tens of millions of unsolicited ballots without any verification measures whatsoever. And I've told everybody that these things would happen.
This is the
because I've
trap
seen it
closing.
happen. I watched a lot of different elections before they decided to go with this big, massive election with tens of millions of ballots going out.
Razorfist said
Everybody, in many
the
cases, totally
Arizona
unsolicited.
senatorial race
This
from
was unprecedented
2016
in
was
American
the
history.
was a
This was
dry
by
run.
design, despite years of claiming to care about the election security. They refused to include any requirement to verify signatures, identities, or even determine whether they're eligible or ineligible to vote. People are walking in there, they have no idea. They're just taking numbers, they're writing down
Yeah, these are
things, the
red
workers,
counties.
and doing a lot of bad things. And we have a lot of information coming and litigation that you'll see that will shake even you people up, and you've seen it all. The officials overseeing the counting in Pennsylvania and other key states are all part of a corrupt Democrat machine that you've written about, and for a long time you've been writing about the corrupt Democrat machine. I went to school there, and I know a lot about it. It hasn't changed. It's a long time ago, and hasn't changed. It's gotten worse. In Pennsylvania, partisan Democrats have allowed ballots in the state to be received 3 days after the election. And we think much more than that. And they're counting those without even
I forget who it
postmarks
was.
or
One of
any identification
the woman who's in
whatsoever.
charge of
So
counting
you
the
don't have
votes
postmarks, you don't have
tweeted
identification.
a bunch of nasty stuff about
There have
Trump.
been a number of
Totally
disturbing
partisan.
irregularities
Shouldn't be in
across
charge of it.
the nation. Our campaign has been denied access
And look,
to
I said the
observe.
same thing about in Florida
Any
with
counting in
Catherine
Detroit.
Harris.
Detroit is
Should
another
never have been in
place.
charge of Bush,
And
um,
I wouldn't say it has the
the
best
Bush
reputation
campaign
for
in Florida
election
and the
integrity.
votes in Florida.
Poll workers
So
in
conflict
Michigan
of
were
interest.
duplicating ballots, but when our observers attempted to challenge the activity, those poll workers jumped in front of the volunteers to block their view so that they couldn't see what they were doing. And it became a little bit dangerous.
Trump's a bit
One
low
major
key.
hub for counting
think
ballots in
that's
Detroit
appropriate for
covered
what
up
he's
the
doing.
windows again with large pieces of cardboard
He's got a lot to
And
read,
so they
a lot of
wanted to
information to
protect
deliver.
and block the counting area. They didn't want anybody seeing the counting, even though these were observers who were legal observers that were supposed to be there. In Detroit, there were hours of unexplained delay in delivering many of the votes for counting. The final batch did not arrive until 4 in the morning, and even though the polls closed at 8 o'clock, so they brought it in, and the batches came in, and nobody knew where they came from. We've also been denied access to observe in critical places in Georgia. In multiple swing states, counting was halted for hours and hours on election night.
I
with
think they're
results
just going to
withheld
throw it in
from
the Congress.
major
I
Democrat-run
really do.
locations only to appear
SCOTUS is just going to say,
later,
too effed up.
and they suddenly appeared, and they all had the name Biden on them, or just about all. I think almost all. They all had the name Biden on them, which is a little strange. I challenge Joe and every Democrat to clarify that they only want legal votes, because they talk about votes, and I think they should use the word legal votes. We want every legal
gonna
vote
eliminate a
counted. I
lot
want every
of-
legal vote counted.
lot
We
of
want
illegal
openness
votes.
and transparency.
If they go
No
through
secret
this.
count rooms.
Dead people, illegal
No mystery
aliens.
ballots, no illegal votes being cast after Election Day. You have Election Day, and the laws are very strong on that. You have an Election Day, and they don't want votes cast after Election Day, and they want the process to be an honest one. It's so important. We want an honest election, and we want an honest count, and we want honest people working back there, because it's a very important job. So that's the way this country is going to win. That's the way the United States will win. And we think we will win the election very easily. We think there's going to be a lot of litigation, because we have so much evidence, so much proof, and it's going to end up perhaps at the highest court in the land. We'll see.
Totally
We think
is.
there'll be a lot of litigation, because we can't have an election stolen like this. And I tell you, I have been talking about this for many months with all of you, and I've said very strongly that mail-in ballots are going to end up being a disaster. Small elections were a disaster. Small, very easy to handle elections were disastrous. This is a large-scale version, and it's getting worse and worse every day. We're hearing stories that are horror stories, absolute horror stories, and we can't let that happen to the United States of America. It's
Project
not a question of
Veritas
who
has
wins,
some more videos.
Republican, Democrat,
Mail
Joe,
fraud, by the way.
myself. We can't let that happen to our country.
This time in Erie,
We can't be
Pennsylvania.
disgraced by having something like this happen. So it will be hopefully cleared up, maybe soon, I hope soon, but it'll probably go through a process, a legal process, and as you know, I've claimed certain states, and he's claiming states, and we can both claim the states, but ultimately I have a feeling judges are gonna have to rule. But there's been a lot of shenanigans, and we can't stand for that in our country. Thank you very much.
That was good. That was a good one. Yeah, I mean, he pretty much said it all. I mean, he's going to fight this. He's Trump. He doesn't give up. This is not Trump. Trump does not give up. And that's why people like him. He fights. He fights. He will fight to the bitter end. He'll be fighting in court all the way up to January 20th. January 19th at 11:59, he'll fight, and then he'll win. So good luck to Trump. Good luck to all of us. Keep the pressure on. Write your congressman. Write your senator. Tell them you want these lawsuits to go through. Tell them you are appalled by that you want this stuff to happen, that you're appalled by the malfeasance. That's a good word. Malfeasance in the voting system. And I feel very good about Trump's chances. Maybe this video will be come back to haunt me, but I doubt it.